Creating Mental Health in the Black Community documentary was probably one of the biggest challenges for me, not knowing how impactful it would be in my community. After leaving this event, a lot of people reached out saying how heavy the energy was in the room and how we definitely need to do a part 2 to this event. It's already in the works, y'all. I got you. So here we sat down, we held a discussion in our community, uncovered some truth, some issues, and here we find out some more solutions. Thank you guys so much for supporting season 3 of the With Love show. I hope you guys enjoy this open discussion of mental health in the Black community.
How many times have people told you, it's okay, just pray about it?
Yeah, all
right?
the time. All the time.
And so we get stuck in this idea that if we just pray, then everything is going to be fine. But they say prayer without works is dead, right? So we have to understand that work is going to therapy. That work is meditating. That work is saying, okay, girl, maybe I need to take a step back and, figure some things out. But we're constantly just, and again, really specific for our community, we just go to church. Just go, you'll be fine. And I tell people, so a little bit about my story, and I've worked with Kristy quite a few times. I've tried to commit suicide twice, once when I was 13, once when I was 22. I'm now 30 years old. So from that, actually my dad found me, he had to put me in the shower. My parents took me to the hospital, right? And they're very, very supportive, and I was raised in the church. My parents have been married for 40 years. I have a twin brother. We have an older sister. So growing up, we were the Cosbys, right? Like, oh yeah, the Cosby family, you're so great, so great. And so people assume, oh, you have 2 parents, you don't have any issues, right? You're really close with your siblings, you don't have any problems. And so I share my story and I tell my story because people have to understand that mental illness has no race. It has no, economic status on it, no creed, no anything. We can't continue to suffer in silence simply because of stigma, because of the church, because of our skin color, because we're losing more and more people every day, younger and younger and younger and younger. So it's important that we come to these events, that we talk to each other, that we find safe spaces for us to speak and be comfortable. I think a lot of times we make that space uncomfortable for one another. We sit and we act like we don't go through these things, and we ignore a lot of signs. I tell people a lot, if you're going to support someone who is open about their anxiety or depression or schizophrenia, because we have a lot of schizophrenia in the Black community too. A lot of it has to do with drugs. On top of that, then you have to educate yourself. You have to be able to say, okay, I can't help you right now. Saying that I'm not the one to help you is also a good thing as long as you can take them to the right support system.
Happy Saturday morning. I know it's early for a lot of us, especially myself. But for those of you who do not know me, I am KristyLove. I'm a TV host, life coach, speaker, whatever you want to call it. So I started working on this documentary, Mental Health in the Black Community, about a year ago. I know nothing about mental health, so this was all a learning experience for me. So I took it as a learning experience. I read different books, did different research, and of course connected with different people that were involved in mental health. And the whole aspect of it was really for me to learn, so I wanted other people to learn too. And what I learned through this was like the difference between mental health versus mental illness, how we have different stigmas and stereotypes, just learning about like what different illnesses or disorders we might inherit. Do we inherit it? Are these true facts? Things like that.
But I think if we think about mental illness and like chronic illness in a same regard, because if I have diabetes and I'm most likely going to have that chronically and have to manage that.
Absolutely.
And sometimes diabetes can be genetically passed down, or it's a higher chance that it runs in our family.
Sure.
But mental illness and substance abuse can be the same way.
But depression, don't put that on the Black people. Don't put that on us.
Yeah.
They call it attention too.
For the genetic predisposition. So that's what it is, the potential for genetic predisposition.
Right. And I think in the video too, what the point that was trying to be delineated is because of our history as a cultural group of people, there is something called transgenerational trauma that is passed down
And it is.
to us.
It is.
Like you're saying, I think it is important to clear up that nuance between depression and race and ethnic groups. Just because we're Black doesn't mean that we're prone to depression.
So if both African American endure both,
You understand what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that, oh, it's just going to be us that's going to always have these problems. Even when they're on TV, that's what they say all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because every commercial, I remember as a kid, them commercials used to be about them Barbie dolls and the Mattel kids and whatever, good cereals and all that. And all of a sudden, commercials on TV has become about pharmaceutical drugs, depression, bipolar. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Heart disease, and we at the top of all of them. African American is this, and African American, you a lie? No, we're not. We don't have everything. You know, and that's real talk. Now, yes, we go through some things. I've seen it all in my family. I've seen depression. I done seen bipolar. I done seen schizophrenia. And let me tell you something, I got a whole bunch of social workers, counselors, pastors, preachers, lay handers, and everything in my family. I've seen it all. And my whole thing is this: when it comes to the black community, I believe that if we come together and we for real use wisdom in identifying what our whole issue is, just as a community, that will really help the mental health within our children and within us. And that's real. It's like we don't look at that no more. It's almost like a one thing. We're in this one room. It's just a few of us. Now what about this whole community, the people that live behind this building, down the street and at the church? You know, what we gonna do? That's where I'm at with it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
When are we gonna break the cycle? What do we need to do in order to break that cycle? Genetics, we can wash that out the building, but what we haven't changed is our behavior.
That's real.
What we haven't changed generation to generation is how we're raising our children. And then when we do raise our children different, I don't whoop my kids, right? And now I have tons of black people like, you not beating your kids' ass? No, because we've seen that. What has that done for us, right? We've seen how that puts so much trauma and stuff in us. So it's not many people. What do we do to break the cycle within ourselves? Because if we don't do that, no treatment, no genetics, no anything is going to save us if we don't change our behavior. So how do we get people to, you know, kind of to buy into that? Some of these things are the reason why we are depressed and why we're anxious is because we're raising kids at young ages and because we're getting molested and we're not talking about it. How do we kind of combat that?
I think it's a difference of, you know what I'm saying, like, because when I got whooped, I got straightened up. It's a difference of how we, you know what I'm saying, we do discipline our, you know what I'm saying, the kids. And when I got, like I said, when I got whooped, I knew the difference of getting beat and
abuse and being disciplined. Absolutely.
But I have a question. How did you know that difference?
The whoopings.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. Is
like,
a lot of times,
because of the whoopings.
well, a lot of times you get whooped, and then your parents are saying, "Well, just because I said so." I see that a lot.
Right. So they never explain why you got that whoop.
So you don't really have to
talk. That's true.
Yeah. How did you get there? Okay.
They didn't explain, like, you know, because when sometimes, like, our parents went through a lot, you know, and we got beat without, you know what I'm saying, without no. We never did nothing wrong, and that's when we knew, like, oh, damn, we ain't getting beat. That's what
it's
the
severe.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because they frustrated.
Right, that's what I'm
Like
saying.
discipline, the root word of discipline is, I believe, is like to make you a disciple of something. So when we're raising our children and disciplining them, it needs to be, you don't do this because of this. You know,
Right.
talk to them, make them disciples of good behavior, but you don't have to beat them into obedience. That's slavery. That's what they did to us. And so I'm not saying not telling anybody not to spank their kids, because my little cousin, sometimes I tell her, you're gonna get a pop. Like, you know, but she, you know, she knows that's when she's absolutely done something like touching an outlet. That's completely unacceptable.
Right.
And so she'll associate that with pain, but even in doing that, it's like, wow, why do we have to teach our children pain to make them listen? And so I think that starts at a very early age, and even in our adult life, we shouldn't have to experience pain to want to be obedient, to do it.
So I'll take it back for you. The Jewish, that was one religion that was to actually be wiped off the face of the earth. They were burned alive, you know, from the old people to the actual children. And they talk about this in the Holocaust Museum. So I really encourage that everybody really go and really to take that in. Because although they were actually burned alive, the one thing about that actual that state of people is that they're resilient. And they always came together through everything that actually happened to them. And the one thing that they never looked for was for somebody to owe them, was for somebody to repay them for the trauma in which that they went through. And I see, you know, coming back here, and like I say, I went with a group of people who were from here. A lot of them were actually from Detroit, so it allowed for us to like really think about our own community and how we're basically thinking about somebody owes us our 40 acres and a mule. How we don't want to change because we want to really stay in these different stigmas for what they are. So that really just showed me, like, you know, within community and us coming together, like, you won't have to raise your babies if we actually can have a Sunday dinner where we can all sit down and talk to each other right after church. We can all go to church. We can actually talk and come together as community. We put our phones down. We get out of social media and we stop paying attention to the next person. I'm telling you, we can be so much greater as people. But it comes from us wanting to actually take that step. Stop looking at what we did in the past and what your parents did in the past and what your grandparents. That's not you. You have the opportunity to make the change, but it comes from within you and you actually wanting to make the change. And with your babies, raise them up to be kings and queens, but to be 10 times better than who you are and what you are. Because all we're doing is going through generational cycles. And it's literally time that we break them.
I was walking past a classroom and I heard a teacher talking to 6th graders. She was like, well, you just gonna be somebody's baby mama. Well, you just gonna go to jail.
They'll
well,
say
you
things
just
like
gonna,
that. Yes,
like,
they will.
something like, and she was screaming at these kids,
Yes.
and they all just like,
Yeah.
so I stepped in the classroom and I said, what if somebody told you when you were 13 years old that the only thing you would do is to be somebody's baby mama? How would you feel about that? She was like, well, I'll try to prove them wrong. You don't have to do that. You know, you don't have to put negativity for them to be. Yeah. Because I was explaining to my students, the only way you know you have new clothes if you see somebody old clothes. The only way you know that you have a little house is if you see somebody's big houses. So if you're telling them the only way that you will get out of here if it's in a body bag, if it's in jail, or if it's a statistic, then that's the thing they think about all day.
So that kind of took me over the edge. I thought what I was doing was okay. Then I had the people in my life that were really most important to me. I'm really, really, really close to my family. Tell me that what I was doing was bad or I was wrong. So because I was so down, that just kind of took me over, kind of over that mark. But now that I'm here, I don't want anybody to go back there. You know what I'm saying? It's hard suffering yourself, but then I think about what my family went through. My father picked me up out of the bed, put me in the shower, and had to drive me to a hospital. Like, that's some traumatic stuff, right, to deal with. So I made it a point first to live for myself. If you try to live for other people before you live for yourself, you're probably not going to continue that life. That's a hard reality to live. You can't live for your kids. You can't live for your spouse. I had to find something for me to say, why do I want to be here every day? That's why I do what I do.
Yes, and one of the things I totally agree with you in the video is that we do have access and that there are all kinds of things in the community that people just simply don't know about. Even from a statistics standpoint, individuals who have the means and have the insurance and have the resources still statistically don't utilize their services.
So it's just like for me coming out and saying, hey, like, this month or these couple of months, these are not okay months. Like, I'm not okay. But for me to say that, people are like, girl, like, you got a lot going on. You got all this going for yourself. Like, you'll be okay. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll be okay. Okay, like, what do I need to break down here? Because I'm doing my best, and now I don't know. So it's like more so being scared to come out and say something without people being like, you're good.
Something is wrong with you. You're disgracing your family. So I never had those conversations with my family. And then when I was 13, every single year on a specific day, I started trying to commit suicide. And it happened for 9 years, every single year. And it never clicked in my mind because I just think, okay, I'm just sad. I'm just going through things. I'm having a really, really bad day. And in 2016, something sparked in my head. It took my little sister telling me, I don't want to lose you, for me to be like, okay, I need to fix myself. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like fixing myself because I wanted to make her happy. I wanted to fix myself because I wanted to give myself a chance. Because I'm like, look, I've tried so many times. I'm still alive. God has something for me, So now I have to try and make sure that I'm living up to my potential every single day. Every day, and I always tell, I'm very, very open with people and my students especially. I tell them, today is not a good day. Yeah. I woke up crying. I'm just going to let you know, I can't function. I want to be there for you, but right now I need somebody to be there for me. But it's very hard as people for us to ask that and say, I need somebody to be there for me. I challenge myself to do that. If I'm having a day where like I feel like God, just take it away, like even just really recently, last week is the anniversary of a lot of trauma in my life, and last week was probably the hardest week of my entire life. And I told nobody. I told them I was in my bed the whole week. I didn't go to work, nothing. I was in bed just crying and crying. And then Thursday came, I saw my family. Friday came, I was like, okay, I do not want to be in this bed no more. I have to stand up. Then I told myself, why do I want to live? Why do I want to be here? And those questions you ask yourself, for me, that's the reason why I'm alive, is because I asked myself that question. Why am I here? Why do I want to be here?